Hey gang, Captain Jim here. Had Realtor Daniel Hart in the studio with me this morning, and hopefully you guys and gals will enjoy today's show. We talked a little bit about the Indian Lagoon restoration through the Indian River Lagoon Clam Restoration Project that Daniel is involved with, and also just growing up here, fishing, hunting, having a good time, getting his kids and family involved and getting out there on the water. And hopefully you guys and gals will enjoy the show and do exactly what we're going to do. Catch a memory.
Red wines, Core red wine.
Jeff Hewitt, he's big time.
Norm Colch. There's so many people that have gotten involved and jumped on board with just jumped in with both feet.
Yeah.
To help out with this project, and then the corporate side of it. You got the Coastal Conservation Association. You've got Starbright, which is one of the sponsors of this show. Starbright is a huge supporter of this initiative, just the cleanup initiative in general. From picking up trash to planting mangroves to planting clams, they are a big part of that, and their products, Starbright in general, their products are being geared towards making a good cleaning product that is better for the environment.
Sure.
On the disposal side, if you will. Yeah. I mean, we're all out washing boats. We're all out watching the soap go out the scupper and into the yard and into the. If you live on a lagoon, into the canal, if you will, because you're on a boat lift or whatever it happens to be, they want those products to break down quickly and not be detrimental to the recovery of the system. And then you've got entities. Brevard County has put money into it. You've got the state that's now put money into it. You've got the feds that are now putting money into it with through Dwayne DeFreeze and the federal sides of things, because he is the national estuaries director, basically, for all of the estuaries in the United States. And so you get people, you get entities that are using other people's money, ish, okay, but to come personally out of pocket, I mean, that shows a lot. That's a big heart. Really,
I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer in, if you've been blessed, then you should probably help where you can help. And I've been very blessed, health wise and career wise and all that other stuff. So, it takes people like you and like Blair to get that ball rolling. It takes people like that, y'all that live on this water. Your living comes from this water. It takes people like yourselves to get that ball rolling. And then, it's kind of like everybody wants to be a part of success, right? So if it's successful, everybody kind of maybe wants to be a part of it. They want to
jump on board and totally snowball the situation.
Exactly.
The other thing that I have to think about is, your sideline profession is realty.
That's correct.
And so you've dabbled in something that can be a pretty lucrative sideline.
It can be, but that's not why I got into it.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't hurt. You know?
Of course.
But the thing about that is when you look at property values, if the lagoon system is in bad shape, property values suffer because of that. So 100%. Every single person that lives on direct waterfront, whether it's on a canal or direct lagoon frontage, they all should be invested
100%
in that piece of water that's behind their house.
That makes their value extremely more valuable.
Yeah.
You can if you live on a mud hole, your value's not as good as if you live, in a nice estuary where you can go fish and clean and.
I think of it like this. Think of living on a lakefront on Lake Apopka 25 years ago.
Beautiful.
Or 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
And then it's beautiful now, but
it's coming back around.
Then they had so much runoff. Constant algae blooms.
Yeah.
And so that cleanup and restoration project, those people that live on that lake have got to be 100% behind that, because it's increasing
directly. Directly affects them.
Yeah.
I mean, big time. Yes, for sure.
So it's interesting to me though that you have taken a big role in becoming a donor for this organization, but the thing about the Indian River Lagoon Clam Restoration Project is it's not a tax it's not a tax.
It's not forced on you.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not a tax assessed on your property value. It's not, thrown in with some ad valorem or whatever other kind
Right.
of taxes they could potentially do.
Right.
It's not. It is totally voluntary,
Mm-hmm.
and it negates and sidesteps every bit of bureaucracy.
That's right.
That
We're
could
gonna do it on our own.
Right.
We
That
don't
could
need-
potentially stop it from happening. And in many cases, a lot of these projects that you see, the bureaucracy impedes the progress.
It's a shame, isn't it?
It is. It is. Especially because we're all trying to get to the same place.
Right.
But it is an interesting thing to see. Now, I don't know if you know. I don't know if you have listened to some of the shows or seen some of the television. My son, for whatever reason, is like the baby clam whisperer.
I've seen that. Yeah.
I don't understand. I'll go throw a cast net and I won't
Yeah.
get these baby clams in the cast net.
Yep.
He throws the cast net, and he has been in 3 different places now where the clam beds that are in the lagoon system are miles, literally 7, 8, 10 miles away from where he's throwing his cast net, and he's coming up with baby clams.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
That's great.
So it's exciting to me to see all of these little juvenile clams, and here's why. Because when we think about the ecosystem, we think about a redfish or a black drum or a speckled trout or a snook or a tarpon or whatever. We're not really thinking about whiting, pompano, croakers,
Right.
things of this nature.
Mhm.
Stingrays, not that stingrays are a highly sought after game species,
But we need them.
but we do need them. There's a purpose for them. So when you look at, especially the croakers, when you look at croakers will eat baby clams. If they come across a clam bed, they'll pick them up.
Sure.
So, and of course, the juvenile drum and the juvenile redfish, you have to have baby clams to feed baby redfish. You have to have baby clams to feed baby black drum and whiting and pompano and those sorts of things. So by having these little baby clams show up in more and more places, there's more potential for these juvenile fish and for the quote-unquote bait fish, croakers in this instance, to be able to feed and thrive. Well, if you have more baby fish, you get more big fish.
That's right.
If you have more croakers, you have more big redfish, you have more tarpon, you have more snook that eat croakers.
That's right.
So over the past 4 or 5 years, we've started to see a huge resurgence in the types of and sizes of fish that we're seeing back in the lagoon system. And as an example, last Friday, just not yesterday, the Friday a week ago, Justin was trout fishing. We're just catching some trout. Had a guy and his kid out. Kid was about 10 or 12.
Perfect.
Catching
Yeah.
trout. Couple ladyfish. It wasn't an exciting day by any stretch of the imagination.
time of
It was
year, too, yeah.
just we're bending a rod. It's hot
Sure.
in the morning.
Yeah.
And Justin's running, back up the river, and sees a big pot of tarpon.
Really?
Pulls over, gets out some finger mullet. That's all he had. He was just using some finger mullet. Throws some finger mullet out. Got 110-pound tarpon.
No kidding.
Right here in Cocoa, right at the Rockledge, almost the Rockledge Cocoa border.
In August.
In August, in the river.
Wow.
They got
That's great.
110-pound tarpon.
That's great.
And he's like, Dad, he goes, there was a bunch of them. He goes, it was not just 1 or 2. He goes, there was a bunch of them.
That's what we want, right?
And so, when was the last time that you could say that you were on a school of maybe 70 or 100 fish, a tarpon?
Me personally?
In the lagoon system.
Me personally?
Right.
Years. Now, you guys who live there obviously probably, but me personally, a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see one here and a couple there.
Sure.
But this was a large school that was moving up the lagoon system, sort of en masse. And I mean,
something's got them there, right?
That just goes to show that there's the conditions are getting better. They would not be there if the water conditions weren't getting better.
No, absolutely not.
And
Something's got them
And
there.
a lot of the a lot of the pilchards, greenies, and pogies that we typically try to use for them are showing good signs of recovery in some parts of the lagoon. But the main thing I've noticed is I'm catching more croakers in my net now when we throw the cast net to catch whatever we're trying to catch.
Sure.
It gets down to the bottom and you start pulling it up. A little bit more on the pinfish side, but much more on the croaker side than what in the past decade,
right,
than what we've caught.
Right.
And I find that really interesting because what are they eating?
They got to be eating something.
Right. There's baby clams back in the lagoon.
That's right.
There's a food source for them again. And so now, the pinfish typically, as juveniles in particular, feed on grass. So in the central part of the Indian River Lagoon, there's not as much grass as there is, say, in the northern end or over in the Mesquite Lagoon side. And pinfish are coming back and pigfish are coming back up in the northern Indian River and all through the Mesquite Lagoon because of the grass.
Sure.
Because that's their food source.
Absolutely.
But throughout the rest of the system, we're finding more croakers.
That's great.
And because they're not feeding on grass, they're feeding on other things that are now available to them. So the whole cycle, the whole web of life thing is getting better because of guys like you. And so there's a lot of us out there giving. There's a lot of us, don't get me wrong. But I mean, when I look at the amount of money that you have donated from proceeds from your realty sales, that's impressive. I want to say thank you, because you and people like you that are doing what you're doing are making my life better. So it's not just for your kids and your grandkids,
right?
Potential grandkids one day. I want to say thank you too.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And, thank you and Blair and everybody who really sponsors it and got the ball rolling. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
Well, we're going to be right back, gang. We got to take our first break of the day. We got Daniel Hart in the studio this morning. If you have any questions, give us a call, 321-632-1000. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be right back. Okay, you guys and gals listening, and remember, those of you out there on Facebook, thank you for watching on Facebook. If you missed the show, you can always go back and you can hear this show. If you missed the live show, you can always go back and you can listen to it at catchamemory.outdoors.com. You can go back and you can watch it on Facebook. For those of you that don't like social media, like myself, and really don't want to spend much time on Facebook, you can go to YouTube and you can watch at CaptainJimRoss.com on the YouTube feed. And what happens is the YouTube feed will come up it's normally on a Tuesday afterwards. It takes a little while because we've got to edit out the intro and exit bump music and a couple of the other things because of YouTube criteria to be able to post on that platform. But you'll get sort of the Cliff Notes version without the extras on the Captain Jim Ross YouTube page. So we appreciate you guys and gals tuning in whatever way that you get in and get involved with the show. And like I said, we would love for you to get involved. If you want to give us a call, ask us a question, anything like that, 321-632-1000 is our call-in line. And we want to let you know this segment of the show is brought to you by Lamb Deck. And if you guys and gals haven't tried Lamb Deck, you've got to give it a try. It is a game changer. It is one of the best products that I cannot believe that I didn't have before now. Even if you just put a helm pad in, just for riding back and forth to and from the fishing grounds, you're going to find out that it's going to make you a noticeable difference on your knees and your back by the time you get back and forth to the dock each day. So, if you want to do the whole deck, you can, obviously. There's a bunch of benefits to it. Non-slip is one. Ease of cleanup is another. And, of course, sound deadening is a third if you guys and gals like to do that skinny water pulling around and you don't want to scare the fish with a step or maybe dropping something on the boat that you shouldn't drop. The Lamb Deck EVA non-skid is the way to go. So give them a call. They're right up there in Titusville. You can give them a call at 321-505-4888. That's 321-505-4888. And tell them you heard about it right here on Catch Your Memory Outdoors. Daniel Hart is my guest this morning. I'm Captain Jim Ross. For those of you that are just tuning in, we appreciate it. Daniel, we all love to fish.
Sure.
But we all don't get the opportunity to fish enough. And so I would say that when you're looking at your schedule, you got a day job, you got an after day job, you got kids. Well, your kids are starting to
Kids are growing. They're out.
starting
They're
to
out
peel
of the
out
house.
of the house.
Yeah, we're empty nesters now.
You've now got more free time to go and do.
Certainly.
Are you being able to take advantage of that?
Yes, I am. I've definitely put some more hours on my boat since the kids have fled. But I actually put a lot of hours on my boat when they were there. We used to, me and my boys, we spent a lot of time fishing together, and I'm very blessed to have that time with my boys. And I grew up fishing with my dad, and my boys have had the opportunity to fish with my dad. So we've had a lot of opportunities to generationally fish, and it's great. My dad's a retired firefighter as well. We used to go to Sebastian Inlet and camp on an island for a week at a time, just roughing it.
Yep.
And it was great. It's great. The whole group of firemen would go, and we'd spend a whole week. So, I did that as a young child, and my boys were able to experience that as well. So yeah, it's a generational thing. It's just kind of in our blood.
It's
we love to
surprising
fish.
to me how many people camp on the islands around Sebastian Inlet.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big time. It's like the ones off of Oak Hill up in that area.
Yep.
That we used to have a bunch of islands throughout the middle part of the river from Titusville down through Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, all of those over the years have washed away, with the exception of what we call Pine Island down in the Indian River. It's really the only one that you can get on and potentially camp on anymore. But there used to be, the entire Intracoastal Waterway was lined with islands at one point. And they're still there. They're just submerged now. They've been kind of washed away. But it's interesting how many people still go down and do that down in the Sebastian area. And that's a fantastic place to camp, because you've got water right there. That you can fish flats, you can fish the inlet scenario, or you can jump out and fish the beach or offshore. So quick access to all of the above. So now, from a realtor standpoint, have you decided, or have you looked at potentially, because you live over in Central Florida, have you looked at potentially moving closer to the coast?
Absolutely. We're just waiting for the timing to be right for my wife and I. She's a school teacher, so she's over there. So I just went on the drop with fire department. So I'm day to day, but I can do up to 8 more years, and we are absolutely entertaining that option for sure. We'd love to be on the water.
In living in Central Florida, fishing here your whole life, and now being in the real estate side of it, maybe without giving too much secret information or whatever, but what is your game plan? Are you looking at Smyrna? Are you looking at, Cocoa Rockledge, Merritt Island? Are you looking at Sebastian? Okay.
I love it right here. Because you're kind of central. You can run up to Oak Hill or whatever and fish, or, you can run down to Fort Pierce if you want. I like right here and further south, Sebastian. I love the Sebastian area, and I guess I'm kind of partial to it because that's kind of where Dad took me to camp and fish, and I love it down there. It's kind of old Florida,
Yes,
a little old Florida kind of feel, down there in that Micco area.
Micco and Grant, Valkyria, yeah.
So yeah, that's the plan, but God willing, it'll work out.
Well, hopefully so. That's interesting that when you say the timing is right, obviously real estate goes up, real estate goes down. Sure. How is, our economy isn't as good as it could be right now, and people are feeling the pinch. But if somebody's wanting to make that move, is now, we've kind of gotten past that rake height peak. Things are starting to settle back in, starting to drop. Actually, I bought my truck just 6 months ago, my new truck, down at Boniface Hires, and my best rate that I could get at the time was like 8.49% on a commercial loan, because it's a commercial vehicle, if you will, for my business. But I just refinanced 6 months later at 6.24.
Yep. Yeah.
So I just saved myself almost $6,500 in interest over a 5-year note payment.
Yeah, that's huge.
$6,500 in my pocket is a whole lot better than $6,500 in the bank's pocket. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely.
So when people are able to start, maybe they got into a little higher interest rate, now starting to lock into a lower, or if they're wanting to sell a property right now and move, is it time to start looking, or is it still maybe time to wait just a little bit, do you think?
Well, traditionally, it's election year. So traditionally people kind of not sure of the unknown.
Right.
So traditionally this time of year is kind of slow because people are not sure what's going to happen next year. But it is a great time to buy right now. It's actually turning into a buyer's market. We're up to, I know in Central Florida alone, we're up to almost 5 months of inventory. Whereas 2 years ago, we were at 5 days.
I was saying, if that,
if that,
5 hours. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is the norm. What we're experiencing right now is the normal. Mm-hmm. What we had a few years ago is not the normal.
No,
2.5-3% interest rate is not the norm. 6, 7, 8%. That's normal. So what I explain to people is the values aren't going anywhere. Values are still going up. So if you thought last year or the year before, I'm going to wait for the interest rates to come down, well, if you're renting, you just threw away potentially $25,000 in rent.
Yeah.
Where you could have been having your own place and
for the same money
and made $25,000 additional on equity.
So from a standpoint, let's just say you've got a young 20 couple. Okay.
I do a lot of work with, new firemen and
25, 27-year-old kids have been married a year or two, might have a baby, might not, but they're kind of struggling. They're strapped. They're paying $2,500 a month for rent at someplace. How does that person transition out of that and get into an actual mortgage?
There's a lot of programs out there, especially for first-time home buyers. They have the hometown heroes, and people think that you have to be a quote-unquote hero, a fireman or a police or, military. But they've opened that up to everybody. Governor DeSantis has opened that up. Anybody.
Really?
Yep. So, there's qualifications. You have to be a first-time home buyer. There's things that you have to fit in. But you can get up to $30,000 and help. Basically, I've seen people get into houses for $500. So there's programs out there. There's a lot of programs out there
that are taking care of your down payment, your closing costs, all of these extras that are deterring you from doing that.
Exactly. And we're getting into a buyer's market now where sellers are starting to, you can buy down interest rate. So sellers are not only helping with closing costs for these folks, they're buying down their interest rate for their mortgage. So you think, it's 6, 6.5. Well, they can, it varies, but they can buy down to 4, 5.5. So there's a lot of options out there for people.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, I tell you what. I'm going to save the next question for after this break because, going back and thinking of me when I was in my late 20s and what it took for me to get myself together without knowing of programs like this, it was a struggle.
Sure.
And so we're going to take a short break and we'll come back and we'll follow up on that in just a second here. Don't go away. Catch Your Memories coming right back. If you guys have seen all the ants popping up, guess what? It's time to call Sun State. Get those guys out there and get them taking care of it. You know what? We've got black-footed ants and little red ants and fire ants, and there's ants and all kind of different ants. There's ants everywhere. My house, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, all of a sudden there's ants popping up every place trying to get in my house. But I call up Sun State. They came out, reapplied some product around here and there. Ants are gone. Love it.
Nice.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So give those guys and gals a call because, you got roaches and all kind of other bugs trying to get in the house too. If you got St. Augustine grass, holy cow, my next door neighbor I've just got a mismatch. Mine is a hodgepodge of whatever green will grow.
That's right.
And I keep it mowed.
That's right.
Some of it has some St. Augustine in it. And of course, this time of the year, August is when you start to see it start to brown.
Mm-hmm.
Because the chinch bugs eat the roots out of it.
That's right.
And the cutworms and everything else eat the roots out of it. And so you get these little brown patches. And this whole past week, every day in the afternoon when I'm washing the boat. There are chinch bugs flying everywhere.
No kidding.
It's like a chinch bug hatch going on. In fact, the blue boat, I hadn't washed it in 3 days. I got in it yesterday, was doing a little this and that in the console, and the whole floor of it is lined in dead chinch bugs.
No kidding.
Which is fine with me.
Yeah.
I like the dead ones.
That's right. That's right.
But if you have a St. Augustine yard or a yard where the chinch bugs get in it, you've seen them too. They're just a little tiny bug, 1/8 of an inch long, 1/16 of an inch long, and they're black with a little bit of white on them, and they can fly. They're kind of a beetle, kind of not. I don't know what they are, but they do tear up your grass. But they're like hatching or coming out of the ground right now and flying around everywhere. I guess they've eaten what they've eaten.
Yeah.
And now they're looking to go fly to another spot so they can eat
like
something
a termite
else.
Almost, huh?
Yeah. And so this is the time of year when you need to get some product applied to get rid of those things so that you can keep your grass in decent shape if you're actually going to do that to your grass. Now, in my opinion, whenever they eat a brown spot, I love it.
There's going to be some weeds going.
Something else fills in. Yeah, weed.
Something green's going to come in.
A bahia, something else other than St. Augustine grows in there.
That's right.
So I'm fine with it. But
Sure.
if you want that perfect green carpet, look like Augusta National, and that's the way your yard has to be, you need to call Sun State Pest Management. So give them a call, 800-783-7378. That's 800-783-7378. That's Sun State Pest Management. We're gonna go to the phone lines. Capt. Mike Mann's on the line this morning. Mike, I'm telling you, how many times in your life have you said the word real? No, real. How many times have you said that?
Too many to count. Too many times to count. Could you hear me saying that?
Just before we came back from break, I can hear Mike telling his customer, real.
Yeah, we got our first spot and had a little Jack Crevalle on it. You know how they take off running, especially the little ones.
Oh yeah, they'll pull some drag and they'll cut back on you and put slack in the line and everything else.
Let me tell you, I think everybody who hasn't fished this week decided to come out this morning. There are boats everywhere. I stop out here on Tiger, and here comes a boat running 30 feet from me. And I'm looking, there's a bay boat running out across the middle of the Tiger Shoals. I mean, just running right through the middle of it. I'm like, well, it's just anarchy nowadays.
Yeah, we're not paying any attention to these signs. We cannot read.
Yeah. But, it's been an interesting week. I've had one of the families that does a lot of fishing with me. They've been out pretty much every day this week with the exception of Monday with the tropical storm.
Mm-hmm.
And now I got another great family that's been with me for probably 15 years or more. And we're just kind of moving around. We've had a lot of wind. Usually you get past the tropical storm and the wind kind of lays down, and it's been windy every day this week.
Yeah, it has.
It's doing a little bit of direction shifting. The nice thing we had with that tropical depression or hurricane was that it dropped the water temperature down in the lagoon. It got down as low as 81, which it was hovering at 90, so that's a good thing. It's starting to warm back up, though, back up to 86 already.
Well, yesterday you didn't get much in the way of rain. I don't believe.
Got no rain at my house, or maybe a sprinkle.
Seemed like the day before was fairly heavy, but yesterday not quite so much.
Yeah, and it's just not. It's so scattered. It's not those typical afternoon drenching storms. And Landon, you got one on? Is that it? All right, we got another fish on.
Awesome.
But
Real,
I told
real.
Landon, man, there's bonus points if he could hook one while I was on air. We'll see if it's another jack or if it's Elgato. We haven't gotten the trout that we're looking for yet. And the tarpon have kind of gotten scarce. The bigger tarpon that I've been on, I've gotten a little scarce post-storm. Yep, another little jack. With the, post-storm, I haven't really seen any of the big tarpon that I've had all scattered through here. But it's been so windy, it's been a little challenging to see them.
Mike, do you think they pushed a little farther into the lagoon?
I've been all over the lagoon. It's just, it may not be they're not there. You just can't see them because of the wind. You get a lot of wind chops.
Yeah.
You can't see them, and they don't tend to roll as much. We got some juveniles yesterday on fly and on artificial. But it was, it was a lot of casting for a few fish.
Yeah, high effort.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, you were in the northern Indian Lagoon here this week. How was the grass scenario up there?
You know, it's not as thick as it's been in the Mosquito Lagoon, that's for sure. We definitely have grass over there, but it's definitely not. And, you know, I must have seen 14 different watercolors while I was over there yesterday. It went from yellow to brown to clear to green. I mean, just a lot of different watercolors over on the Indian River side, especially in the north end of it.
Yeah, it seems like the stuff that's flowing out of the ditches, Aranchoa Ditch, Flounder Creek, Turnbull Creek, it seems like the stuff that's coming out of there is obviously bringing nutrients and changing what's living in the water around those input points. And like you say, with the nutrients coming in, you get those different colors of algae blooming.
Yeah. Y'all reel it in. You got a fish on. Yeah, it's
real.
It's been very interesting, and there's a just absolute ton of bait over there. Look, she's like, "Can I reel it in?" The line is behind the boat, and I think she had something to eat and take off running. I mean, just miles upon miles of bait fish over there.
Yeah.
Which the pelicans were enjoying.
But you're not seeing the numbers of predator fish that you're seeing on the Mosquito Lagoon side.
No. I mean, we saw a few reds way up in the north end, but they were so skittish, it was really hard to get any casts in.
How's your water level? I know we spoke earlier in the week, and you said everything was very, very low. Is it picked up?
Yeah, it's still low over there, and the number of jacks we've had in here is insane. Big jacks, little jacks. Hang on one second, guys. Let me help.
Time to get the topwater plug out.
That's right. Yeah.
Jack Raval running around. Let's get
that
the
old chug bug out.
So the topwater plug right now is the fact that there's just so much floating grass.
Oh, salty snack. Get a salty snack.
Or just throw
Actually, I got to get you some of those still, don't I? I told you I was going to get you some of those.
Yep. You got it. Yeah, I've been waiting on that second.
You know, you can't count on me.
Sorry.
I tell you what.
I'm going to have to come down and see you in a couple, in October. I'm definitely going to be down there.
Yeah, well, I will be up your way today. I'm going to get together with some family that lives there in New Smyrna, and
nice.
We're going to grab some dinner. So I will be up that way. So I'll put together a care package for you and bring it up.
Yep,
we're losing you on your microphone there.
Sorry, I'm trying. We got a big sail cat on. We got Jack Crevel's on it. I'm trying.
It's a busy morning.
Unfortunately, this waterfish chase does not do real well if I try and just hold it with my shoulder.
No, it muffles it up on you.
Yep, I need to start bringing my AirPods.
Yep. So are you fishing shallow or are you fishing deep today, Mike?
We were casting up towards the bar up at, I'll let this spot go up towards the bar on Tiger.
Uh-huh.
Because, I figure I'd start out a little bit deeper and we're working our way up, but we got 3 jacks and a catfish. So I think we are about to relocate.
Yep. Action, but no quality yet.
Yeah, action, but no quality.
Yep. Have you seen any shrimp hatches going on yet?
Not yet, but I'm expecting to.
Man, any day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's August. It is August. They should be, so what we're talking about, gang, with the shrimp hatch is you'll see areas in the sand or in the grass flats where the shrimp are actually getting churned up by the redfish and the black drum. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the trout will come around, the ladyfish will come around, that kind of thing. But you'll see them actually jumping out of the water. Right. When they're getting chased by the fish. Mm-hmm. And that is such a cool, when you find that, it's like, oh, stop.
Game time.
Yeah. Start casting.
That's right.
Yeah. You know what I did have the other day, though, is we were and I haven't seen it or smelled it in a while, the old watermelon scent.
That's what that's that trout.
We were, And that's why we came down here and started was because I came through here the other day and I was like, ooh, I smell watermelons.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we stopped here and fished it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if jacks throw up the same scent.
Mike, just real quick, I mean, you're fishing more open flats with a little bit of flow that comes across them. What about places like back in Van Slough or back in White Sands, or what about some of those little hidey hole places that we like to go hide when, especially like if the wind's blowing? Have you been back in any of those places to see if there's anything?
You know, I hit Van Slough a few days ago, and back in there we got one snook. We were throwing flies, so we were trying to stay as protected as we could.
Right.
And we got one snook back in there, and that was pretty much it. Saw a lot of mullet, and I saw a lot of bait fish coming out of the water. And I don't know if there's just these marauding schools of jacks, because I've seen several times where we've been working and these bait fish are just showering out of the water.
Yeah.
And, I saw that yesterday on the Indian River side. I saw some this morning as I was running. And that's typically a sign of either a dolphin's coming through or a school of jacks is coming through, and they get those baits all spooked up, and they start just showering.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Well, I was just wondering with the wind being what it was. I know, this time of the year with the water being so hot, we like to get out and fish those flats that are adjacent to that deeper water because they just tend to hold more fish. Those fish tend to stage on points and deeper drop-offs, like where you've started this morning. But I was just wondering, with the temperature drop here the last couple of days, if maybe they haven't slipped back up into some of those back areas. So
yeah,
remains to be seen, I guess.
Yeah, last week, because of the water temperature, everything was out in that 2 to 3 foot range and even deeper.
Yeah.
And I got a feeling they're already starting to slide back up that way. 86 isn't really a horrible temperature. So, we're going to kind of bounce around. I'm in the big boat today, so I'm a little limited on where I can get to.
Gotcha.
But we're going to we're going to bounce, and we're getting ready to run over here with the clinkers, check one more spot I like while we're down here, and then we're going to move on, start working our way north.
All right. Hey, let me know if my little snook spot that I showed you is. Have you checked that lately?
I have not checked it because if I've been up that way, I've been tarpon fishing.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let me know if you get a chance to check that. It'd be interesting to see.
That sounds good. I'll try and I'll probably check it this coming week. Not today because that's a little bit north of where I am. But definitely going to slide up that, a little bit south of there, but that way as the sun gets up a little more.
Sounds great, buddy. Well, how does somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can reach me at area code 386-295-5991. You can go right to my website, fatfishguide.com. Follow me on Instagram, CAPT Mike Man, 2 N's, and Facebook, Fat Fish Guide Service.
Awesome. Thanks for the call this morning and the live action report from the water. We appreciate it, Mike, and tell your customers continued success on getting those rods bent today.
Thank you, sir. Get out and catch a memory, guys.
Take care, buddy. Hey, gang, we're going to take our next break. When we come back, Daniel Hart and myself will be right back with a whole lot more Catch a Memory, so don't go away. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in every Saturday morning right here to Catch a Memory Outdoors. I was jabbering through the break here, and I got to show you guys something. So this segment of the show, well, for those of you that can see on the Facebook feed, I have got my live bait cooler, and this segment of the show is brought to you by Engel Coolers. So this is my live bait Engel Cooler dry box here, and so for those of you, like I said, that are watching on Facebook, you can see it's starting to discolor. It's been in the sun quite a few years now. But I love this thing, and I've talked about this thing multiple times, especially for this time of the year. This is a fantastic product to have because I put my shrimp in here or my mud minnows or whatever, and you can get the bigger size. This is only the 19 quart. You can get the 30 quart as well, but it comes with a little, hang thing on the side, and I've got my little bubbler, my little Engel bubbler, 2 D batteries, a set of D batteries, and you've got 48 hours at least worth of oxygen. The tube comes through the little grommet in the top of it, and it obviously goes down in. And I bought the accessory, the little bait net accessory that's inside of it. So this is a little, almost like a little hoop net, if you will, or it acts like the way a bridge or a pier net would work. where your bait's inside the net. You pick up on the handle, and you can easily grab your bait, so you don't have to have a little carry an extra little dip net. Long story short, okay, is I've had this thing now, man, I've had it for probably 8 or 9 years, and absolutely love it. But I just bought, they had the little lithium rechargeable aerators on sale. So I just bought one of those. They're normally like $49. They had them at ICAST for $20.
Oh, no kidding.
So guess what?
Yeah, stock up on those.
Yeah,
Huh?
so I got one of those. This one still works fine. So I'm not planning on getting rid of it anytime soon. But when it does go bad, I've got the lithium ion rechargeable backup to take with me. Or I can just recharge it, leave it in the boat, and then whenever I get off the water, I can just turn it on and run the air tube into my bait tank. And from the boat ramp back to my house, I can run oxygen.
Yeah,
I can have a bubbler for that.
Sure.
So I can use it as kind of a dual purpose thing. But here's the real reason that I brought this in, okay? So I just found this out. I didn't know this before. And I try to stay up on my my sponsors' products, but I didn't realize this. So these come with plastic hinges with a metal pin in them, okay? And you can see, for those of you that are watching on Facebook on Catch a Memory Outdoors, you can see this. But I'm going to describe it. So it's a plastic hinge with a metal pin. And you can see this one is different. I don't know if we can do a close-up on that or not, Paul. Is that about as close as we can get? Okay. That's okay. It is what it is. Anyway, this is the new stainless steel hinge. So the plastic ones have lasted me 8 years at least.
Right.
But finally, the little pin in it, after all the repeated salt water, it finally corroded and the little pin snapped. So I'm like, I need to buy another hinge. Well, I could buy another plastic hinge, or I could upgrade to the stainless steel, and they're only like $5. The pair of them's like $10.
Get some more miles out of it.
Exactly. So I upgraded to the stainless steel hinge. I bought a pair, but I just wanted to bring this one in for those of you that have the visual to show you that the difference. There is no difference. It's an exact cup. You know how when you buy aftermarket stuff, a lot of times it almost fits, but not quite.
Yep. One screw's a little sideways.
This is a complete direct replacement, and I've now got stainless steel hinges. I'm going to replace the other one when I get home, and then I'll just use the plastic one as a spare for one of my other coolers, because I've got multiple sizes of these. If I have another one break, and I'll have a spare, but for the one that's in the boat all the time in the salt water, and I take this thing and like it'll get slime and fish guts and everything else on it. I just take a bucket of water and just dump it, just like it's laying on the deck.
Right.
It's getting washed down with the bucket. It's getting splashed. I thought that this for $5 is an absolutely
good investment,
fantastic investment.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys and gals know that the products typically don't wear out. I use them a little more than the average person, and so I had a quote-unquote failure with part of the product. So I was able to upgrade to these stainless ones for a nominal price. They fit perfectly, and I'm looking for another 8 or 10 years at least out of this dry box / cooler. So anyway, that was what I wanted to show you guys and gals today, because that, to me, that is, that's worth the investment.
Sure.
Otherwise, I would just be sitting around going, well, if it was a whoever's, I bought it at, Walmart, or I bought it at, somewhere else, you're not finding spare parts for that stuff.
They're disposable.
So, yeah,
just throw
exactly.
the whole thing away.
Disposable.
That's right.
Yeah. Chinese junk. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Just poorly made product. And so what I wanted to say was, if you've got an Engel cooler, go to their website and check out some of the accessories like this that you can get, and you can upgrade if you do have a failure. They've got a lifetime warranty on their product.
Right.
So I could have got another free plastic one, but I'm like, $10.
Sure.
It's not killing me to spend $10,
right.
And I'll have a stronger system than what I originally started with.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was pretty cool. So go to engelcoolers.com and check them out. But we appreciate them sponsoring this segment of the show. While we've only got a couple of minutes before the top of the hour, Daniel. So let's talk about a couple of things here.
Okay.
That we need to talk about and get them out of the way. we have got the P&K Altman's Foundation Take a Kid Fishing event coming up here, October the 12th at Fox Lake Park in Titusville. Now, there's only 40 spots available for this. So if you want to get involved, you got to get involved pretty quickly. Every kid is for ages 8 to 12, and of course a parent must be present. Don't just drop your kids off, kick them out the door, and then leave.
It's not summer camp.
It's not summer camp. Yeah, need a parent to be involved, but it's a really great event. They're going to do knots and best fishing practices starting right around 8 a.m. on that October 12th, Saturday morning. And then fishing's going to start about 9. Every kid's going to get a free rod and reel, which is a really cool thing. And they're going to have a lunch from 11 to 12. So a couple hours or an hour of instruction, a couple hours of fishing, a little snack time, a little lunch time after that. And I don't know what the lunch is going to be, but Daryl McCall is the fellow that's helping with this Take a Kid Fishing project. And I'm telling you right now, the Gateway Lodge is he's part of the Gateway Lodge number 384 and Zebco. But long story short, he is one of the best cooks that I know.
Really? Yeah.
And man, I'm talking about
it's going to be a good lunch.
I'm talking about I don't know what it's going to be,
it's going to be good.
But if Daryl's actually doing the cooking with this, it's probably going to be briskets, chicken quarters.
That'd be worth going just for that.
Yeah,
just for lunch.
Maybe pulled pork. I don't know what it's going to be, but I can tell you right now, the lunch alone is worth it.
Sure.
So it's real easy to get involved. Fox Lake Park in Titusville, 8 to 12 on October the 12th. The Indian River, Indian River 90 F and AM in Titusville, which is the Altman Foundation. So this is it's pretty going to be a really cool event. So check it out. You can get involved by going to Altman 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 SAC at cfl.rr.com. That's Altman SAC at cfl.rr.com. Pretty cool thing. That foundation is it helps with kids because one of Altman's kids had an issue. And so this is going to help kids that have those issues.
Right.
So pretty cool. And then, of course, the 29th Annual Port Canaveral Kids Fishing Clinic is coming up the next week on October the 19th, and that's from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Jetty Park. First 300 kids ages 5 to 15 and are going to be able to go to that. And you go to FSFAVP@gmail.com. FSFA, that's Florida Sport Fishing Association, VP@gmail.com to sign up for that. We're going to talk about this over the next couple of weeks so that you guys can get reminded on it. But if you get a chance to get involved, we're going to take our top of the hour break. And when we come back, we got a whole nother hour of Catch a Memory, so don't go away. Tuning in every Saturday right here to Catch a Memory Outdoors. Got Daniel Hart in the studio with me. I'm Captain Jim Ross. For those of you that are just tuning in and joining us, we appreciate you tuning in. Want to let you know that we had a whole lot of stuff that we were talking about earlier with the Lagoon system and basically property owners that are adjacent to the Lagoon system and how their property value is affected by the water value.
100%.
But, I kind of wanted to go back into some property value things because, Daniel, you do your sideline job. You're a firefighter full-time. Thank you for that service. But your sideline job is doing some real estate, and you give back to the Indian River Clam Restoration Project a portion of every proceed that you do. You've been fortunate enough to be able to get in that position because, like you said, you want to make this a better place
for
your kids, your future grandkids, that kind of thing. And I think we all feel that same way. So in saying that, if somebody has a piece of property that they're selling, whether it's a house or just a piece of property or whatever, that they want to buy or they want to sell, I don't know how the whole real estate thing works. Let's say I find a piece of property and I go, hey, I want to buy this property, but you need a realtor to buy the property most of the time.
Right.
So do I just call Daniel Hart and say, hey, can you help me with this?
I'll walk you right through the steps. There's a lot of things that go into it. Are you paying cash? Is it going to be financed? So, as you know, it has to be appraised if you're doing financing.
Right.
But yeah, I'll from the very get-go all the way through. I work with a lot of my mortgage people, my preferred lenders that I have a good working relationship with, inspectors. I have people that I use for environmental. A lot of people don't know that when you buy a piece of vacant land, you need to have an environmental study done. Make sure there's no bald eagle's nest or how many gopher turtles are on the property, and if it's wetlands, can you build on it? So there's a lot that goes into it. You don't just say, hey, I'm going to buy this piece of property, I'm going to build on it. Well, you may not be able to. So call me, call any realtor really, but that's what we do. That's our profession.
Well, the reason that I would think that anybody that listens to this show would want to give you a call is because there's a sideline benefit for them.
Oh, sure.
Because I mean, you're fluent in taking care of these issues, but there's also a sideline benefit to not only you, but to them, because part of the proceeds are going to go back to helping restore the Indian River Lagoon.
That's correct.
Through the Clam Restoration Project. Mm-hmm. So why you would use a different realtor that's not doing something to help the area that you live in and the waterway that you love to fish in, that doesn't make any sense to me. Right. Your phone needs to be ringing off the hook. You know what I'm saying? We need to just throw the phone number out there, have them start calling right now.
Hey, I'll answer. My phone never leaves my hip, I can tell you that.
So, in looking at a piece of property, it's interesting that you said something about, can you even build on it if there's wetlands and that sort of thing? How, if a person's looking at a piece of property, how would you, do you do like a consultation type of a scenario where you say, hey, this particular piece may or may not suit your needs?
Sure. Before
somebody jumps right in and tries to buy something.
100%. One of my first questions for anybody that I work with is, what are your goals? What is your goal? And I'm there to help you get to that goal.
Yeah.
If your goal is to build a house with a swimming pool and all this other stuff, we're going to make sure that we can get there. We can accomplish that. And if we can accomplish that, now you have a piece of property that's really no good to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's really about what your personal goals are. And my feeling is, I'm there to help. I like helping people. Obviously, it's kind of in my blood. Again, my dad's a retired fireman, so that's what we do. We help people.
Right.
That's literally one of the first questions that I ask people when they call is, what are your goals? And then that gives me something to work towards to help you get to your whatever your goal is, whatever it is.
What would you say is the biggest mistake that people make? Are they is there an over expectation of what they can do with their property?
Yeah, I've seen that happen before. I think the biggest mistake people make is getting in over their head. Biggest mistake they make is yes, they get emotional and they purchase something, and then 5 years later they're over their head and they're regretting it. And that's kind of my goal is I don't want anybody I help to regret any decision they make.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they have big plans and things like that. And that's why I use preferred lenders, because that's after we discuss goals. Okay, let's go get pre-qualified and let's see where you stand. And not only just qualified, I send those listings to my preferred lender that you're working with and they do taxes and HOAs and everything, insurance, everything that goes into a mortgage payment. Say, are you comfortable with this payment?
Right.
And just because you get approved for $700,000-800,000 doesn't mean you're comfortable with that $700,000-800,000 mortgage.
Understood. Yeah, and we saw a lot of that happen after the last bubble in the market. There was a lot of people that basically got in way over their head. Going back to something that we started off with, that that young couple that's just gotten married, and they're renting, and they're looking for their first home. Let's just say they have an annual income of, let's just say $100,000 between them.
Right.
Are there still places in Central Florida where you can, on a combined income of $100,000, that you can get a little piece of land and a little house and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a listing on Merritt Island right now for $250,000.
Okay.
It's 800 square foot, but it's a roof over your head and it's your place. So yes, there are opportunities out there. You may have to go to the outskirts. You're not going to be in the prime location necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but absolutely.
You may not be waterfront on Newfound Harbor.
That's right. That's right. That's right. But there's definitely plenty of opportunity out there for people. Absolutely.
Gotcha. So, I look at what my ex-wife and myself, when we first found our house, and I still live in the house. I repurchased it from her when we divorced. But I saw this house and I was like, this is it. Like, we looked at a lot of houses and I was like, yeah, it's okay. And I kind of like that one. There wasn't any one that just kind of jumped out and grabbed me and said, this is it. And when we found the house that I'm in now, and it's just it's just a very basic house. It's not elaborate by any means. But it's in a fairly nice neighborhood. It checks the necessary boxes. It's centrally located to all of the things that I wanted to be centrally located to.
Yep.
And I had a pond in the backyard.
That's nice.
And to me, the water portion of it was the draw.
Sure.
I'm a sit on the back porch kind of guy and look at the water. That's me. I mean, I come home and I walk through the house. I grab me a big old glass of water and I'll go sit out at my picnic table.
After spending all day on the water.
After spending all day on the water.
Look at the water.
Still go sit on, and just sit out there and in the shade and drink a cold cup of water and just look at what's going on. That's me.
Sure.
That's just what I wanted so the house, in my situation, I could have a bedroom, a kitchen, and a bathroom, and I'm good.
Right.
Because I don't need the whole rest of the house.
Sure.
That's just my personal need.
How much time do you spend in it?
Right. I'd rather sit on the back porch. Even as hot as it is right now, I still like to sit on the, turn the fan on and sit on the back porch kind of thing.
100%.
But
and you want to look at decent water. Again, goes back to that value of your home. You don't want to sit back there and look at a mud hole.
Right. So there are options. People that are renting right now, there are options for them.
100%.
And like you said, with these incentive programs, I mean, if you can get up to $20 or maybe more, $25,000-$30,000 worth of assistance.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
And like I said, sellers are really starting to work with buyers a lot more. With buying down interest rates and helping kick in towards closing costs and things like that. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunity out there.
And that is great news because in the land of man, things just cost way too much. That's good news.
Yeah,
especially for younger kids. I look at my son, and he was out renting, and for years.
Sure.
And it got to the point where he's like, Dad, I just can't come up with
my money
this.
away.
I can't come up with this kind of payment each month, plus a car payment, plus insurance, plus all of the things that you have to live on a single income. He was just like, I can't do it anymore.
Right.
And so it's good to hear that things are turning around.
And a lot of times your mortgages will be less than what you pay for rent.
They were paying like $2,400 a month for rent.
You can get a darn decent house for $2,500 a month with a mortgage. And you're investing in yourself. You're not investing in somebody else's mortgage.
Right.
You're gaining equity, and you're building. You're investing in yourself and your own personal being, and not somebody else's. Now, there's a place for rentals. Obviously, people need it. There's no. I'm not saying that we don't need rentals. Of course, we need that. But if you are able to, why not invest in yourself? Why not, invest your money into your future and not somebody else's?
That's a great thing. That's a great thing. Well, guys and gals, we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we've got a whole lot more. I got some special stuff we're going to talk about here in the next couple of breaks. So don't go away. Captain Jim Ross and Daniel Hart, Realtor Daniel Hart. You're tuning in right here every Saturday morning to Catch a Memory Outdoors. We're going to let you know this segment of the show is brought to you by Petrucci Insurance. Now, as of right now, to my knowledge, there's no named storms in the Atlantic or the Gulf.
There's one brewing.
There's an almost.
Yeah.
Okay. But here's what you need to do. Call Petrucci Insurance and get a rate quote, because while there's a named storm, they won't rewrite a policy.
Absolutely not.
Even if it's just a raindrop coming off of the coast of Africa and hasn't even turned it officially into a thunderstorm yet. The second that it gets named, they'll stop writing policies. So if you guys and gals think that you're paying too much for your insurance, make sure you call Petrucci and have them do a rate quote for you. Make sure that you're paying for what you need. you're not overinsured, you're not underinsured. Because I'm telling you, you look at your policy and you're going to be shocked at how overinsured your insurance company is betting that they can get you to. Sure. You know, as an example, they had my contents at almost $100,000.
That's a lot of contents.
I don't have $100,000 worth of fishing rods, maybe, but but see, the fishing rods don't count.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's a whole separate policy. That you got to have a separate rider for that.
That's right.
You know, because that's personal property.
You got a nice couch if you got $100,000.
Yeah, you know, it's a heck of a big screen. But I'm looking around my house and I'm like, why are we insuring my house for this? This makes no sense. So we got a rate quote done, and I'm down to about $35,000 on my interior contents. That's really all I have.
Sure.
You know, I mean, I got some deer heads and fish on the wall. I got a couple of TVs in the house. I got a couch, which I would rather have a bean bag.
If you're spending more than $35,000 on furnishing your house, you're doing pretty good.
Exactly. And I look at it and I'm like, we are way overpaying, and you don't realize it because they sneak it in on you. And they little increase here, little increase there. Oh, we're going to bump this, we're going to bump that, and pretty soon you're paying for all this stuff that you don't need to be paying for. So call Petrucci Insurance at 321-632-1200. That's 632-1200. And let them do a rate quote for you today. And hopefully you can get a better coverage rate and the proper coverage through Petrucci Insurance. And because they're an independent agent. The insurance company is not looking out for you. That's not what they do. The insurance company says, thank you for giving me that money, and we're not going to give it back to you. Oh, you had a claim? Oh, okay. Well, here's a couple dollars, and maybe that'll make it go away. They
go find somebody else because we're not covering you anymore.
Yeah, and we're not going to cover you anymore.
Right.
So don't get in that situation where you are paying for way more than what you need, or on the other hand, that you're underinsured and you're not covering what you need to cover. Because I've seen that too, where people got in, they had a fire in the house or something to that effect, and then they didn't have enough coverage to cover what they needed, and now they're coming out of pocket. So you don't want either of those scenarios, and that's what Petrucci does. Every single day they find you the best policy for the best price. 321-632-1200. Give them a shout and tell them you heard about it right here on Catch Memory. You know what, Daniel? I was going to talk a little bit about this brand new product from Saltwater Assassin. So these are called the 5-inch shad assassin, and those of you that are familiar with the jerk baits and soft plastics know that 4 to 5 inch size is a really, really popular size. But check this new color out. So this is called Slam and Shad, and you guys have all seen on social media Salt Strong is promoting their Slam Shady color of lure. Well, this is, I think, the next evolution of that, because they added a little bit more iridescence to it, and they added a little bit more flake to it. And
I can't
this
imagine what that looks like in the water. I bet
it looks incredible.
It looks like fish scales.
Yeah, it looks like fish scales. Exactly right.
Like a pilchard or something.
So they make this new Slam and Shad color in multiple bait styles. You can get it in the sea shad, the 4-inch sea shad. You can get it in the 5-inch jerk bait. You can get it in the little. They've even got it in the little 3-inch. A lot of these guys are using forward-facing sonar.
Yep.
You've heard a lot about that in the bass side.
Absolutely.
Assassin makes these little 3-inch split tail minnows that are perfect for this kind of fishing.
Right.
And they've been making them for years. I've been using these things for a long time. But there's been a resurgence in that type of bait with this new sonar technology.
Absolutely.
And they make this Slam and Shad color in that bait bait profile.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, this thing
they're saying that topwater baits and things like that are really taking a hit on the bass fishing side.
Yeah. Everybody's going to microplastics.
Yeah. Yep.
2,
Spinning rods.
2.5 to 4-inch microplastics to do this kind of fishing.
And they've got stuff now you can put on the bait so you can see it, and you can see the bait in your sonar. Paste that you put on there.
Well, if you look at the forward-facing sonar, and I haven't really looked at this for a saltwater application, but there's a few things that you could use it for. But in the freshwater side, where these guys are are marking fish against a piece of structure and then pitching to them, that particular type of presentation, you can actually watch the bait fall through the water column. You can see your line. I mean, it's when you get it dialed in right, you can see your line going down to the bait. You can watch the fish swim up and eat the lure. So it's pretty cool concept.
It's interesting. It's a big controversy, of course, but yeah, you mean they're doing it not only in deep water, they're doing bed fishing. They're finding fish on beds. I mean, Scott Martin, he won that tournament down in Okeechobee. Of course, you know, he's Clewiston born and bred, but he won it on that technology, bed fishing.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of applications for it for sure.
So anyway, long story short, new Slam and Shad color from Saltwater Assassin. I am going to try this one in the 5-inch. I just got these in this week, and I'm going to let you gals know how they work, because these things look, I mean, they just, like you say, they look like fish scales, and they haven't even gotten in the water yet. I mean, they're just sitting in the package.
I can imagine what it looks like in the water. Yeah,
it's going to be exciting.
That sun hits it just right, buddy. That thing's going to stick out.
So, Daniel, what kind of, we haven't really talked about fishing. You've got a 24-foot bay boat like myself.
Yes, sir.
And, of course, you've taken your kids fishing over the years. But what kind of fishing do you like to do best?
That's a tough question. Whatever's biting. That's what I like to do.
You know what? That's exactly the kind of fish I like. I like the dumb, hungry ones.
That's right. I grew up doing a lot of bass fishing. Growing up in Central Florida, I grew up on a lake, Lake Mary Jane over there, and just grew up bass fishing. I would come home from school, and my dad would leave the air horn on the back porch for me if he was out fishing, and I'd go out on the dock, blow the air horn, he'd come get me, and we'd go fishing.
Get you, yeah.
Yeah, so I love bass fishing. It's definitely a passion of mine. But I also love being over here chasing those redfish and trout. And my in-laws, I was fortunate enough to marry into a great outdoors type family, and we go down to Pine Island every year down there on the West Coast, around Captiva, and fish for those trout. And it's just nothing beats a topwater bite. You know what I mean?
You're one of the fellows who sees the lagoon system, sees the Indian River, and then sees the Pine Island area. Now, Pine Island got rocked.
Yes.
With Charlie.
Yep.
And then they just got rocked again with whatever that last one was. Ian, whatever that one that came through. Absolutely got rocked. Have you been back since then?
I have.
Okay.
I have. And it's the fishing, the last time I was there was actually phenomenal. It was really good fishing. Nature does its thing. I could tell you that
hurricanes are almost like a big reset.
Yeah. It flushes things out. Gets things moving around, flushes things out. On the other hand, though, I think that since 2004, when we had those 4 hurricanes come through here, I think that really hurt the lagoon a lot.
Our lagoon here, yeah.
Yes, and I don't think we've ever recovered from it, especially down in the Sebastian area where I spent a lot of time fishing. It used to be beautiful sand, grass flats, that backwater around the inlet, and now it's just mud.
There was so much fresh water that came in during those 3 hurricanes.
You could see the brown water going in and out with the tide at Sebastian.
And you still can at times.
Yeah.
The last 5 or 6 years you've been able to see that.
Right.
Here the last year or two, it's slowed down somewhat. They've turned a lot of the water back around from the Palm Bay area, and they're sending it back into the St. John's.
That's huge.
And if my memory serves me correctly, I think Jeff Cranick told me they're kind of pushing some of that back through the Satori Marsh and
where it belongs, where it needs to be,
where it should be.
Sure.
Exactly, and that's helping. But you're right. It got so bad because it was so many years of fresh water in a saltwater lagoon system, and that's the detriment of building houses and creating drainages. You have to put that water somewhere.
Yeah, same thing with, like I said, I do a lot of bass fishing. I go down to Okeechobee multiple times a year, and they're dealing with it, and Pine Island's dealing with it because all of the building and growth that's going on in the Central Florida area, it's all running off into Sykes Creek, and it all runs off into those lakes. And even my lake, Lake Mary Jane, that water ends up in Okeechobee through the Kissimmee River. So it's not necessarily, everybody says, "Oh, Okeechobee, bad." It's not Okeechobee's fault. You know what I mean? It's coming from north.
Coming from Central Florida.
Exactly. And we have issues all over this state that really need to be taken care of, because that's what makes Florida, right?
I was talking with Ridge Murphy at ICAST, and I was asking him, they've got this whole movement, Captains for Clean Water, and eventually, there are going to be some there are going to be some things that come from that whole awareness program that are going to do some good. They're still kind of in the works,
Sure.
And there's a lot of pushback from agriculture and from just the developers too. They're
Sure.
wanting to develop, and I get that. Everybody wants to come here and live here, and if you don't have a place for them to live, then there's a quandary there. But he showed me something. He goes, if you look at a satellite image of the water flow, historic water flow, you can see how it used to come out of Okeechobee and come straight south all through the Everglades.
That's right.
And from Flamingo east over towards Largo, it's still hypersaline in there. And I experienced that in May when I went through that area. From around Gallinipper or Garrison, Bight area.
Yeah.
Over to
It needs fresh water.
Past Crocodile Drag over. There's really no fresh water coming into that part of the bay. There is some that's now coming over to the west side and coming through out, like
10,000 Islands.
Well, out towards like Shark River and Lostman's, and
Right.
those are starting to get better flow. But that straight south of Okeechobee and then even coming east a little bit, that still is not receiving any true flow coming out of Okeechobee. And he says that's why that's still showing those hypersaline signs, and we're having algae blooms and grass die-offs and fish kills and things of that nature. So, the right rate of flow that's needed is still not being met in that area.
Right.
And yet we've got other areas that there's too much flow coming in. And, like this area we have from Rockledge and north, this whole area, there's a lot of mitigation going on trying to capture some of that. But we have, we still have drains that just drain straight to the lagoon system. As an example, the Bird Plaza parking lot in Cocoa, there's drains all through that tarmac.
Right.
The drains go straight into a pipe, straight to the lagoon.
Right.
They're going to put baffle boxes on them, but a baffle box can only do so much.
It only holds so much. Right.
Where if there was a way that you could take that and drain that
Store it somewhere
into a settlement pond,
right,
and then if it got to the point where it overflowed the settlement pond, it would flow down and then go into the river. These entrapment type scenarios are they're so much more beneficial to our Indian River Lagoon, and a lot of the marketing that's going on a lot of the management that's going on is now leaning towards that,
right,
which is a good thing to see.
Absolutely.
Well, guys and gals, we've got to take our next break. When we come back, we've got a whole lot more. So don't go away. Catch Your Memories coming right back after this message. Guys and gals, welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in every Saturday right here to Catch a Memory Outdoors. Daniel Hart has been in the studio with me this morning. We've been talking about a variety of things, but one of the things that really hits home is what we started off with, was getting your kids back out fishing. And so let's talk about the fishing and boating conditions for the day, so that you guys and gals know what to expect. Right now, we got south winds coming in at around 5 to 10 knots, and it's going to stay about that from through the afternoon. Might get a little bit of west in it, but mainly south. Seas inside of 20 miles are supposed to be around 2 feet at about 8 seconds. And right now, we've got a 1 foot at 3 second kind of cross chop coming out of the south across a 2 foot at 8 second swell coming from the east. So pretty nice conditions out there. Ponce Inlet is buoy at Ponce Inlet is 79 degrees, which is chilly. We're going to talk about that in a second. 2 foot at 8 seconds is the wave conditions there. 4 Mile buoy out of Canaveral is 76 degrees, 2 foot at 8 seconds. The 20 Mile buoy at Canaveral is 79 degrees, 2 foot at 9 seconds. And the buoy out of Fort Pierce is 78 degrees, 1 foot at 8 seconds. Now, looking at the water temp, we've got a cold water upwelling because of all the south and southwest winds that we've had after this storm has gone by. It's sucked all the warm water, warm, close to shore, near coastal water out. It's pushed it, and we've got this cold water upwelling that's replacing it. So if you guys and gals go to the beach, the water's going to feel pretty doggone cold, but it may not necessarily be a bad thing because the air temperature is going to be pretty doggone hot. But if you guys and gals do get ready to go fishing, just remember that you've got cold water conditions that you're going to be dealing with. And the cold water conditions have basically taken over from Ponce all the way south to Fort Pierce. So the entire east central part of the state is experiencing these colder than average conditions right now.
Fish don't like those temperature changes too much.
It definitely had an effect on them this week once it kicked in. The snook and the tarpon in particular, it really affected them.
Right.
Western edge of the Gulf Stream right now is about 40 nautical miles due east of Ponce Inlet, 29 due east of Port Canaveral, and 21 due east of Sebastian. And the current surf temperatures, 79 at Ponce, 76 at Cocoa Beach, 77 at Sebastian. And I believe Fort Pierce was like 74.
Ooh.
It was really cold down that way. So lot colder than what we're accustomed to for this time of the year. Next two tides, we've got a high tide at 12:33 p.m. at Port Canaveral and a low at 6:46 p.m. And then at Sebastian, we've got a high at 12:28 p.m. and a low at 6:37 p.m. this evening. Remember, the current changes about two and a half to 3 hours after the actual beach tide. And then the solar lunar tables, which are the best times to get out and do a little fishing or a little hunting, presented by All About Archery down in Melbourne. The major today is from 4:48 until 6:48, so just before sunset. And then the minor is right there at lunchtime, 11:37 a.m. to 12:37 p.m. So that should give you some indications of what, where, when, how, and why. And we got any phone lines. We got Captain Blair Wiggins on the line right now. Good morning, Blair.
Good morning, guys. What's happening?
We're having a good time in the show this morning. Got Daniel Hart in this morning with us.
I just heard that. And first off, I want to say thank you for your generous donations, Daniel. You have put a lot of clams back in the water. The river appreciates it, and so does everybody else.
Yeah, I'm blessed that I'm able to do it. So I enjoy being a part of what you have started, and hopefully more people will get on board.
Well, it's coming along good. We surpassed, I think, the 45 million mark here the last planting that we did.
That's great.
And we're kind of on hold right now because of the heat. Maybe some of that cold upwelling will come in here.
Yeah, get inside the lagoon system, huh?
Oh, that'd be sweet, wouldn't it? But,
well, one fortunate thing, Blair, that we did, a lot of places in the state got a lot of water from this tropical storm / Hurricane Debbie that just went by. Yeah. We were very fortunate that we didn't on the coast here get a whole lot of it. I mean, we got some rain, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't 8, 10, 12 inches. It was, 2 or 3 inches. I got a bucket in my, just a Starbright bucket, just like this one that's sitting on the desk right here, sitting right by my front door. Mm-hmm. And it has about 4 inches of rain in it between last Friday morning and yesterday.
It's not bad.
So 4 inches, I'll deal with that,
sure.
Given the fact that it was a tropical depression / hurricane that came by. But that's great news for the Indian River Lagoon because those freshwater inputs are not going in there. And the less fresh water that goes into our saltwater lagoon, the better.
Correct.
Yep, no doubt. That's why we had so many oysters come back this year. I don't know if you follow Corey's
oysters are everywhere.
Instagram and whatnot, but we had oysters all over the site at River Rocks and everywhere else too. The salt was perfect all summer long without the rains or without the heavy rains.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing, Blair. You can see it on the fenders and the pilings of each of the intracoastal waterway bridges, the causeway bridges. The fender systems in particular, a lot of them they've been replacing and renewing, and you see fresh oyster growth.
That's great
on them, and that's great news.
Absolutely,
great.
Yeah, that's something I noticed way back. When I was screaming about the clams being taken out, but there wasn't any new growth of barnacles and oysters and stuff like that. And I've noticed that coming back in the past 5, 6 years. That some barnacles are coming back, and you'll see them on the catwalks, on the bridges and whatnot, and on the pilings,
on the mangrove roots.
Yep. Yeah, it's slowly but surely coming back. Hopefully, we don't get that was one of looks like a few we're going to have to dodge this year.
Well, hopefully we'll continue. We were talking earlier about this the Indian River Lagoon Save the Indian River Lagoon sales tax, half-cent sales tax, and how much benefit has been gained from those millions and millions of dollars that. Not you, not me, not Daniel, not our producer Paul, not all of our listeners that listen here in the Brevard County area, we haven't had to pay to fix the lagoon system. We have, from what we've purchased, there's been a 0.5-cent sales tax. But from all of the people coming to Brevard County, all of the tourists that come here, all of those people that are spending money and getting a hotel room and various things, all of those people, buying gas for their rental cars and their rental car fee, and every single penny spent in Brevard County by anybody, half cent of that sales tax goes to restoring the Indian River Lagoon. So we don't have to pay it in property taxes and various other fees and taxes to help clean the lagoon system up. Everybody has shared the load, if you will. And I think that's super, super important to remember, because eventually we're going to have to vote again. Do we want the 0.5-cent sales tax to stay in place or not? And when you look at the benefit, the impact that it's had,
nobody wants a tax increase, but when you weigh the tax increase with the benefits, sometimes you just gotta.
It's the money's coming from somewhere.
Sure.
Do you want everybody else to help you pay for it, or do you want to pay for it out of your own pocket?
Right.
You know.
Right. I'd be 100% behind a 0.5-cent increase on that.
Exactly. Because I don't want my property taxes to get an Indian River Lagoon surcharge on it of a couple $1,000s a year, and I know nobody else does either.
Right.
So,
and like we talked about, the tourist taxes would be huge. These people are spending a lot of money to come get on these cruise ships. You add $1 or something on every one of those rooms, that's a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
We made, and then there's $1.
Daniel, here's something that I've been striving for, and I've been telling some politicians about and trying to get it going up in Tallahassee. But Florida's the only state, if you go with a fishing guide, you don't have to buy a license. Did you know that? No matter where you're from, you don't have to buy a license. If you go to any other saltwater Gulf state, Atlantic state, even if you go with a fishing guide, you have to pay at least $7.50 a day to go with a fishing guide. Now, if these guys are paying $800 a day, $900, $1,000 a day, even more to go with guides, what's another $8-10? If we were to adopt Louisiana's laws and what they charge their tourists coming in, we've done all the calculations, and this was from just a few years ago, and I'm sure there's a lot more guides out there now, so this number would be increased. But it was $250 million that we came up with.
Wow.
That could be made from the fishing guides that don't have to, they wouldn't have to buy that license anymore, and charge everybody that goes fishing with them. If they're calling to book a trip, if you're booking it online or whatnot, you have a little box there that says, make sure you get your fishing license.
Right.
It's just like Louisiana does.
Yeah.
And if we were to adopt that, literally $250 million could be dumped back into the
our freshwater guides already have to have that. When you go with a freshwater fishing guide for bass, you already have to buy your personal fishing license, whether it's an in-state or an out-of-state. They don't have a blanket license option.
Oh, really?
Saltwater guides are the only guys that have a blanket license option. The only thing that I could see when you're looking at piers and jetties, that becomes sort of the sticky point, because a person that fishes from a pier or jetty, sometimes that's a last-minute decision. They're going, hey, we're out here,
let's go fishing
on the beach, and we could fish. There's a jetty right there, or a pier right there. We could get on that pier and pay to get on the pier and rent some fishing equipment. The fishing license aspect of it maybe could be wrapped in somehow, but when you're just talking about a spur of the moment, I'm only going to fish for an hour or two, I would think that there might need to be an exception that the pier itself could purchase a blanket license for anybody that just happens to walk on and want to rent a rod for an hour, kind of thing.
Well, if you're a resident,
in a guide
if
scenario,
you're a resident and you fish, what else do you do on your birthday? You do your car registration, or you do, there's something you do annually that you have to do, or a 5-year. It doesn't. If you're fishing, you're taking out of the resource, and something needs to be put back in.
Yeah. But yes, definitely the saltwater guides license could definitely be reviewed.
Sure.
I buy a blanket license for everybody that gets on my boat, but I look at the amount of money I pay versus the amount of money that could be generated just from my boat.
Imagine what you can do with $250 million.
$250 million with
That's
a B,
with
yes.
a B.
Because
Can you
that's
imagine how many?
the most they're going to make off every guide out there, and we came up with that number too. I don't remember it, but it's usually around 20. Every guide has to pay that $203 license to cover everybody on the boat, and the more people you put on the boat, the more you have to pay. But that was an incentive that was put into play years ago to get people to come down here and fish.
Right.
Yeah.
And we got enough people fishing down there now with residents and everything else. So it's time that law gets turned around.
Definitely.
Big
Well,
time.
buddy, we are up against our next break, but we appreciate you calling in this morning.
Well, I do appreciate you letting me vent that one. That was a good one. But Daniel, thanks once again for your donations, and we definitely do appreciate it. So does the river. And Jim, keep up the fight, brother.
I'm trying, brother. I'm trying. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye now. Hey, gang, you know what? Before we go to break, I just want to do one more thing real quick, because this is something that I've been doing here lately, and I think that everybody needs to check it out. So Starbright, in their cleaning solutions segment, they have got a product that's called Nose Guard, okay? And it comes with this little plastic container with little holes in the top of it. You take this product, you throw it in, you take it out of the foil, throw it in there, and you just let it sit wherever you want it to sit. You can put it in your car. I put these in my intake air vent on my air conditioner, and so I'm constantly killing mold and mildew and getting rid of bad odors, from whatever source you may be getting them from. But this thing's super easy. You can, in the fast release mode, you can put a little piece of sponge, moist sponge, and it helps activate the product, and it gives you a quick release. Or just leave it bare and just let the humidity work on it in a slow release aspect. But storage containers, sheds, places like that kind of get musty. You throw one of these in there.
I'm mesmerized by what Starbright has done and what they come up with.
Everything
everything under the sun. It seems like they're coming up with.
I put these in my boat too.
Yeah.
In my hatches, I put them in there, and it keeps my hatches from getting as moldy and mildewy and smelling and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, 101 uses. Starbright Nose Guard, but it's their slow release scent control product. You can find it at a lot of different auto parts stores for your car, or you can just simply go to starbright.com and find it there. It's super easy. We're going to take our last break of the day. When we come back, we've got a couple of minutes left with Daniel, and don't go away. We're going to be right back with this message. Those of you guys and gals out there on Facebook that have been listening in all along, had one thing we want to say is that this segment of the show is brought to you by Strike Zone down in Melbourne. Strike Zone's got their swordfish tournament coming up here. I think the weigh-in is today, if I remember correctly. But you can check with them at Strike Zone and find out about that. The other thing is, one of the guys on here, let's see, who was it? Somebody was saying, Shay Hobby, is there a best bug spray to use? Because the no-see-ums are chewing him a new one.
I found a product that a local person had made down in Pine Island it's called, I can't think of the name of it now, but it was a great product. It was a local person who made it.
I use a product called Anytime.
Okay.
And they were sponsoring the show for a little while. The fellow that owned it got bought out by a bigger group.
Right.
They weren't interested in sponsoring the show, but I still use that product. It's called Anytime, and it is it's like a lotion that you put on.
Okay.
And it works.
Yeah.
It just flat out works. It keeps everything off of you. And it actually smells.
When you get
decent.
close to those mangroves.
Man, I'm telling you.
Time to back off just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, like Shay was saying, the no-see-ums are out of control in the lagoon right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, Anytime works. You can find it online. I believe Terry Bradshaw is his company is the company that bought the Anytime product. So you may look up Bradshaw's, Anytime bug repellent, bug spray, bug whatever, bug lotion. You can always go back with old Skin So Soft.
Yeah.
Skin So Soft has been sort of the standby, and it works 85% of the time.
Right.
They'll still get on you a little bit, but not too bad. Right. But I'm not a DEET guy. No, I'm really not a fan of.
When you could put something on, you could put something on your arms and the tablecloth from the picnic table. Color comes off onto your arm.
Yeah. Well,
something's pretty strong there.
DEET will melt vinyl.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
You remember that? I don't know if you remember it, but you remember the old little containers of DEET that they used to give you when you were in the military? That little camo colored bottle thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a guy that was, in Vietnam. This is many, many years ago, but he was in Vietnam and he still had some of this stuff. He took the cap off, unscrewed the cap off, and it was just a little squeeze plastic squirt bottle type thing. Took the cap off and set the cap on my seat, my bench, my leaning post seat. Put a little bit on his skin, and then went to pick the cap back up, and just the residual that was on the cap
Burned a hole in it.
melted a hole in the seat. For that short period of time it sat there. So he went to pick it up, and it was like pulling bubble gum. It actually was.
Yeah. Imagine what it's doing to your skin.
Exactly. So at that point, I used to spray myself down with DEET bug spray all the time. At that point, I was like, no, that's not for me.
Right.
And so if I apply a DEET type product now, I'll put it on my clothing, but I
Right.
don't put it directly on my skin.
Right.
But anytime I just rub directly on my skin, and it works really good. Keeps chiggers off too. And let me tell you, man, the chiggers up at our property in Oak Hill, they ain't no joke. They are not playing around. They will mess you up. So, long story short, give that a try, Shay, and hopefully that works for you. Daniel, there's a lot of properties available here now. You said that there's a 5-month inventory. If a guy's moving here, a guy's thinking about moving, maybe they live here already, but they're thinking about moving and going, hey, you know what? Maybe I'd like to try a waterfront property.
Sure.
Is there anything like that available right now?
Oh yeah. From Mims down to Micco, Sebastian area, there's I think 25 or 26 waterfront properties available right now.
Nice.
On the Banana or Indian River, or Sykes Creek,
Sykes
or
Creek,
something
yeah.
like that. And they're ranging from mid 500s up to $4.5 million. Anywhere from your 1,500 square foot house from the 70s, 60s, and 70s up to a 7,000 square foot mansion, 6-bedroom type deal.
Way more than what I need.
Yeah, but it's there. There's opportunity there for sure. Yep.
Gotcha. So if somebody's interested in maybe looking at a property, let's say they have $750,000 to put towards a house.
Uh-huh.
Okay. 500 to 750 towards a house. There's
a dozen at least homes out there
that they can go look at.
Mm-hmm.
How do they get
Absolutely.
a hold of you to go check these out?
Give me a call, 407-247-3894, and we'll set up showings, and we'll have a conversation first, obviously, what your
Right.
goals are, and get you pre-qualified through one of our, if you don't have a lender, one of my preferred lenders, and we'll go check them out.
So, in looking at 10 or 12 available in that price range, I mean, that seems to be the common price of some of the houses in some of the nicer neighborhoods. Now, this gives you direct
Correct. On the water.
direct canal front or direct waterfront
Absolutely.
in that same price range.
Yep. And the good thing is, with me doing this kind of on the side, my bills don't depend on real estate. So I do it because I enjoy helping people out. So there's no pressure from me, because my bills are being paid, and that in turn turns into no pressure on people I'm helping.
Yeah.
So you're in charge. Give me a call. We'll do whatever. If I have to go show you 25 houses, I like looking at houses too, So, just give me a shout, and, we'll make it happen.
That's awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for doing what you do for the Indian River Lagoon through the Clam Restoration Project. It amazes me that your commitment to making this a better place, and I appreciate and applaud that. Hopefully, everybody out there can get involved with, get that spirit in them, and
Sure.
and do what they can as well.
Takes us all.
But once again, how do you have a website or anything
I have
like
Facebook,
that?
Daniel Hart. Daniel Hart's my personal page. I have a Daniel Hart Realtor Firefighter Facebook page, Realtor Daniel.Hart Instagram.